Hey guys, welcome back to Mo's Game Table. Today we're going to take a look inside Combat Volume 2. This is an expansion designed by Ross Martel and is published by Compass Games. This is the first expansion in the series, and this is expected to be a long-running series. It is very popular, it's man-to-man solitaire, and it is widely regarded as a very, very solid game. In this expansion, we're going to get some new weapons, new troops, and different weather variations, as well as obviously new missions and new maps. Also included in this is a campaign system. So let's take a look at the back of the box and see what this game's all about. And it starts off at the top saying Volume 2 is an add-on module. You must own combat in order to play. Combat Volume 2's new features include elite enemies in the form of the SS, a third US squad and command elements enabling platoon actions with multiple players, new weapons such as the STG-44, the Thompson submachine gun, the M2 HMG, and the Springfield 1903. Weather variations, rain, snow, mist, as well as ground conditions like mud or snow. Fire. Now artillery and grenades can start fires. Trained medics, unarmed but efficient. Vehicles, the Panzer IV-H, M4A3 Sherman, M3A1 half-track, and trucks. Light anti-tank weapons such as the bazooka and the Panzerfaust. A campaign game allowing you to follow the fortunes of your squad from D-Day to VE Day through 6 campaign chapters. Will your squad be an efficient, well-disciplined unit or the dirty dozen? Name your soldiers and track their skills and experience through the war. Deal with contentious relations within the squad, win medals, and form foxhole friendships. The campaign game chapters include Normandy, Pursuit, Hurtgen Forest, the Bulge, the Siegfried Line, and Germany. Not all chapters will be played depending on events. You may be transferred to the Ardennes and take part in the Battle of the Bulge, while in another playing, you are instead sent to the hell of the Hurtgen Forest. Campaign events include USO shows, illness, arguments within the squad, R&R in Paris, replacements, etc. You will play missions and patrols during the campaign, and each chapter has its own mission tables with 100 different missions and a patrol table with 10 different patrols. Each campaign will be unique, creating a new story each time you play. And you can see an example of some of the counters here, as well as the maps at the top. For the components, we get 6 new 25 by 38 inch maps, 4 1-inch counter sheets, 3 5/8 inch counter sheets, 11 display mats, a pad for rosters and campaign calendars, 5 player aid cards, 1 rulebook, and 1 scenario book. Complexity is 4.5 out of 10 and has nothing on time scale. For map scale, it's 10 yards per hex, unit scale is man-to-man, and the number of players is 1 because it's a solitaire game, and that's why the solitaire suitability is 10, and the average time to play is 3 to 4 hours. So let's take a look inside and see what we get. All right, just like we saw with Combat 1, we have our rule books and scenario books, as well as the player aids, all tied together there for easy transport. We have 2 pads here. A whole bunch of new maps. The 5/8 inch counters. And the big 1-inch counters. And I can already feel these are going to pop out pretty easy. So let's set up the maps and take a closer look at the game. And we'll take a look at the maps that come with the expansion. There are 6 maps in total. This is map number 5, the woods. As you can see, plenty of woods, some hills, a little pond, stream, a lot of different terrain here, and it's beautifully done terrain. It almost has a photorealistic look to it. I really dig the look of these maps. Then we have map number 6, the town, and you can tell it is definitely a town. Roadways, all the buildings, you've got some craters, rubbled buildings sprinkled throughout, as well as trees and other different pieces of terrain, a couple hills, things like that. Really beautiful map. Map number 7, the Abbey. The Abbey is the centerpiece of the map, and it is on a higher elevation than the surrounding areas. You've got other different pieces of terrain as well surrounding it, but really interesting map this is going to be. Next, we have map number 8, the Hamlet, and this is going to be a really interesting map. You've got hills throughout, you've got woods, and you've got all these little buildings sprinkled throughout. So that's going to be really interesting to fight on because you're going to have plenty of fire lanes to shoot and a lot of open area that you're going to have to cross when you're going from terrain feature to terrain feature for cover. So this should be a really challenging map to play on. Then we have map number 9, Hedgerows 2, and you can see it's going to lead to a lot of tight engagements here. There are some open areas, open lanes for travel, but it is going to be really tight in your face action here, as hedgerows tend to be. And lastly, we have map number 10, the Ridge. And you can see the ridge is the center point of the map. You have another hill off to the side. You've got some trees and fields, craters, some rocky areas, things like that sprinkled throughout. But that is the final map that comes with the expansion. Next, we'll take a look at the play rates that come with the game. Start off here with the patrol display, which gives us tracks for the patrol distance, patrol time, patrol victory points, weather, ground conditions, and completely lost boxes. Then we have the weapon characteristics card covering the M2, the M1903 Springfield, M1 Thompson, M1919, M9 Bazooka, MG42, STG44, and finishing up with the Panzerfaust 60 and Panzerfaust 100. And on the back we have the artillery tables for indirect fire versus tanks, as well as indirect fire versus half-tracks, trucks, and jeeps. Then we have the vehicle order matrix, and this is the first side, and then the reverse side of the vehicle orders matrix. Then we have the AFV hit locations covering the front, side, rear, and the turret hit locations also for front, side, and rear, along with a diagram illustrating what is front, side, and rear in the game. On the reverse side, we have the AFV damage tables. On the next sheet, we have the half-track hit locations and the half-track damage results. On the reverse side, we have the truck hit locations and the truck damage results, as well as the Jeep hit locations and damage results. Then we have the card for the Panzer IV, which includes the weapon characteristics, the damage results, and the crew positions, as well as armor characteristics of the vehicle. And we have a second card for the Panzer IV. This one is identified as Vehicle ID B. The first one was Vehicle ID A. Next, we have the Opel Blitz, which gives the crew and passenger positions, and there are 3 of these. This is Vehicle A, there's also a Vehicle B, and a Vehicle C. Then we get into the U.S. vehicles with the quarter-ton truck, giving the weapons characteristics, as well as passenger locations and damage tracks at the bottom. Next, for the U.S., we have the M4A3 Sherman, which gives the weapons characteristics as well as damage track, armor characteristics, and crew positions at the top right. This is Vehicle A. There are 2 of them in the game. The other one will be Vehicle B. Next, we have the M3A1 personnel carrier for the US, giving the weapons characteristics, armor characteristics, damage track, and crew positions along the top right. And the final vehicle is a 2.5-ton 6x6 GMC with the crew positions and the damage track at the bottom. And then the final player aid is a fold-out. On the back we have the spotting chart as well as the AFV LOS display for hatch open as well as hatch closed, and the check results display table at the bottom right. And on the inside we have the order and terrain chart. Now we'll take a look at the counter sheets that come with the game. Here are the 1-inch counters. You see the new squad, and then you also have crews for the different trucks as well as the AFVs. On the next sheet, we have the remainder of the U.S. forces and the start of the new German forces. The next sheet has some more German forces. And on the last sheet of 1-inch counters, we have the crew members for the AFVs and trucks for the Germans, as well as leaders and partisans at the bottom. Next, we'll take a look at the 5/8-inch counters, and these are primarily administrative counters. And be very careful when handling these because these are falling right out of the counter sheets when you pick them up. The 1-inch counters are very delicate too, but not as delicate as the 5/8-inch counters. They're all going to punch very, very easy. Then we have the second sheet of administrative counters. And then we finish out with the final sheet of administrative counters for the game. Then we have 2 pads of sheets that come with the game. First is the campaign calendar, so you can keep track of the days and months of your campaign, starting in December 1944 and concluding in April 1945. Then we have the roster sheet where you can keep track of all of your units in the game, and I think this is a pretty cool touch because it looks very authentic to the time. It definitely looks like government military issue paperwork, and it even says at the bottom left, War Department Form 336A. Next, we'll take a look at the rules. This is a 24-page full-color rulebook. Inside of the front cover, we have the table of contents listing out all the rules and their associated case numbers. Then we get into the Introduction to Combat 2, talking about the elite enemies, which are new to the game, and the elite enemy skills. We have Dodge, Dodge 2, we have Tough, Eagle Eyes, Deadly, Knife Expert, and Sniper. Those are the new elite enemy skills. Then we get into the character selection table, and then I talk about new characters as well as the new weapons and new terrain that is in the game. Weather and ground conditions, which is new in this game here in this expansion. We've got rain, heavy rain, mist, and fog, as well as mud, mired, snow, and deep snow that you'll be dealing with in the game. And we have fire and how that's handled, because now things can set the area on fire. We have trained medics, and then the vehicles, all the crew positions that you will track on those cards we looked at. And then a movement example, vehicle facing, and movement examples here illustrated for you to follow along with. Impassable terrain, turrets, and how turret facing works in the game. Vehicle spotting, jeeps, trucks and half-tracks, AFVs, enemy crews, friendly crews, half-tracks, and then hatches, whether they're open or closed. And then you have the AFVs down here, firing at vehicles, firing at jeeps, firing at half-tracks or trucks, and then also firing at AFVs. Penetration, glancing blows, and then crew morale checks, as well as dropping grenades into the AFV hatches, which is pretty cool. Different types of tank rounds you can use, co-driver's periscope, your vision slots, suspension, tracks, gunner's sight, loader's periscope, wheeled vehicles for jeeps, trucks, half-tracks only, headlights, passengers, and then we have the crew morale, and then a little more talk about passengers, as well as artillery hitting vehicles, and then vehicle orders, smoke grenades, smoke discharges, and then direct firing, gunner only, loader only rules, co-driver and gunner only. All the different things can happen to all your crew members. Panic, emergency stop, aimed fire, rapid fire, suppressive fire, and then your light anti-tank weapons. Then we have an example of play here on page 22, illustrated for you here for a couple pages to follow along with. And that finishes out at the back of the rulebook. Next, we have the scenarios. This is a 28-page full-color book. Inside of the front cover, we have the table of contents listing out all the different scenarios in the game. It'll take us up to number 22 from 10. It starts at 11 here. You've got 10 in the base game, and now up to 22 in the expansion. Then we have the random events table here. Attacking event, defending events, and then we get to Scenario 11, Payback Time. Lists out the order of battle, the enemy forces, as well as the allied forces, and then all of the steps you'll need to follow to set up your scenario, and then the victory conditions. Scenario 12, Overrun. Scenario 13, Find That Radio. Scenario 14, Defend the CP. Scenario 15, They're Falling Back. Scenario 16, Get Them Out of There. Scenario 17, Clear Them Out. Scenario 18, Great Minds. 19 is No Man Left Behind. 20 is The Long Run Home. 21 is Machine Gun Ridge. And the final scenario is Scenario 22, Outflanked. Then we are at the back of the scenario book. Next, we have the campaign game rules, and this is a 48-page full-colored book. Inside of the front cover, we have the table of contents. We get into the introduction, and then the campaign game sequence of play. Explains to you about experience and skill definitions. We have the skills acquired table at the bottom here. This is going to be pretty cool because now you're going to start having a bit of an RPG element, as well as just a skill building and XP building thing where there's continuity in your units, and you're going to really start to care about your troops, and I think that's a pretty awesome part of this game. Wound recovery, fights, reroll and must reroll, merit and demerit points, foxhole buddies and adversaries, squad morale, minimum squad size and replacements. Then we get into missions, calendar, prisoners and papers, patrols. You see it's pretty well thought out, and trying to develop not only an unending series of games you can play, different missions you can play, but also a really deep narrative experience. Then we have the patrol event table. That carries on for a few pages. Patrol victory points, squad creation, training in England, event tables. That goes on for a couple pages. We get to Normandy, pursuit. These are all the different chapters that you can go to fight in. And then we have Hurtgen Forest, Siegfried Line, the Bulge, and then Germany is the final chapter. Then we have the Normandy tables here, Hurtgen Forest, Siegfried Line. It's going to be the same for all the chapters. This is going to give you, on the left-hand side, scenario name. It'll tell you whether it's an attack, firefight, and there's different firefight numbers, 1 and 2, ambushes, and then the type of map you'll be using. All of it is going to just kind of randomize the entire setup for both the Allies and the Germans, so it's always fresh every time, and I think that's pretty cool. It almost seems like an unending variety of different scenarios you can be dealing with. And we go all the way down to Germany, which is the final chapter. Then we have the campaign outcome at the back. And then on the back we have the roster sheet, which we saw the pad for just a moment ago. And lastly, we have the campaign game scenarios. This is a 32-page full-color book. Inside of the front cover, we have the table of contents listing out all the campaign game scenarios: attack, defend, firefight, fallback, pursue, ambush, and ambushed. That's that table we were looking at before with all of the different chapters you'll be going through. You'll be getting the scenarios out of here. Scenario CGS1, attack, and it tells you different maps to use and the setup on how you're going to create a different narrative every time, a different setup every time. I have the hill, the village, the hedgerows, the woods, the abbey, the town, the hamlet, all the different maps that we've already looked at, the ridge, hedgerows 2 that is actually. Then we get to CGS2 defend. It's going to be similar to what we saw there with 1. It's going to give you all the setup information that you need to create these unending scenarios, which will just create a really cool narrative. I mean, this is really an exciting system. There's a lot here. If you're a solo gamer and you really like tactical gaming, I think this is the one that you definitely need to check out if you haven't already. Then we get to CGS7 Ambushed, which is the final one. And then we are at the back of the campaign scenario book. And that is a look at everything you get inside of Combat Volume 2. This is an expansion designed by Ross Mortel and published by Compass Games. Anybody who's played Combat Volume 1 is going to know that there's a lot of fun in that system, and it creates great narratives every time, and there's a lot of replay value. Well, you get Volume 2, and that replay value just grows exponentially, because not only do you have individual scenarios for the game, but now you've got a campaign system that dives even deeper into your unit creation and their individuality. These guys now have, they're living, breathing troops. They like each other, they hate each other, they have fights and animosity, everything that you really do experience in the real world. So I think it's pretty cool that not only is the action there, but the narrative is greatly expanded too. So this just makes this an amazing system. It really is an amazing system. If you're a solo gamer and you like tactical games, this is one you really do need to check out. With Combat Volume 2, it's a must-own in my opinion, because there's just so much cool stuff in this that you could be playing this for years and probably not get through everything. That says a lot right there. And this is going to be a long-running series for Compass. Bill was talking about it on the town hall. I think the next one's going to be Market Garden. And then I think they're looking at something else, maybe in Italy or something. They're talking about Pacific. They're also talking about East Front. Who knows where this can go from here? I'm hoping that we can go all the way up to Vietnam, maybe even modern. I think it would be fantastic. But this is a great system, and definitely recommend checking it out. Well, I hope that helps you guys out if you're curious about this one. You have any comments or questions, post them down below. Thanks for tuning in, guys. See you next time.